Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from Skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Welcome to Top 5 Fridays. Bob, how you doing today?
Doing good.
It's Friday the 13th. How do you feel about that?
I feel fine. I rode my bike this morning.
Yep.
It was lovely out there. Last day of Adam's camp before they give it to the hunters.
Yep.
So the bike season's winding down, but that's all right.
Yep. You know what happened the last time it was Friday the 13th?
No.
I broke my collarbone.
Ooh. So you got a couple hours left. You should just go to bed now.
Yeah. I can go home and stay inside for the rest of the day and maybe not even walk up and down my stairs or something.
Yeah.
We got golf to watch, so I'll just go watch golf. Anyways, welcome to the news. Pretty easy news week this week, I think. We've got a lot of COVID updates, not surprisingly.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into it. First topic of the week, ski season is kind of underway in a lot of places. Not quite here in Vermont, but we're so close that it kind of feels like it is anyways. Yeah. And we're kind of starting to see reports from around the country, some different interesting news articles popping up from pretty major news outlets, which I think is fascinating. And we'll start just right here in Vermont. So we've had, I guess, 2 increases in COVID restrictions this week.
Yep.
The first was, last week in Top 5 Fridays, we talked about how basically they were really limiting out-of-state travel to those red counties, requiring quarantine from certain counties. They've since upped that to just all non-essential out-of-state travel.
Right.
So it's really going to make it more challenging for people to come here from out-of-state and ski.
Not impossible, though.
Not impossible,
not
no.
Impossible.
But challenging. I know you mentioned a friend of yours who's
Yep.
kind of planning a trip midwinter and renting a house.
Yeah.
So that situation, even if we're in this current situation, they'll still be able to.
Yeah.
They're just going to have to do a test on either end or a 14-day quarantine on either end. So it's doable. But yeah, we're certainly navigating. Still navigating a bit of a gray area here.
Yeah, I think that out-of-state day trip skier is the one that's really left in a lurch at this point.
Even out-of-state weekender,
yeah,
that's going to be pretty darn hard to pull off.
Yeah.
Now, today, actually, we got another increase in COVID restrictions, so kind of going back to limiting social gatherings. Bars will be closed. Restaurants will still be open.
Yeah.
But, yeah, kind of not necessarily moving in the right direction here in Vermont.
No, not this week.
But hopefully we get ahead of it and kind of stop what's feeling like an increase in spread right now. And this is going to be an ongoing dynamic.
Yeah.
As the season goes on, as this plays out, we'll continue to let you know what's happening here in our state and from around the country as well, and around the world. Now, interestingly, I mentioned those kind of big news outlets or big media outlets, and some ski news has been trickling into pretty major outlets right now. The Washington Post released an article discussing kind of how to plan your winter trips, and they're not discouraging people from taking ski trips. They're really just emphasizing these are the steps you need to take to stay safe and keep the community that you're going to safe. So pretty interesting. And then there's a Fox News article on backcountry safety.
Who would have thought?
That's crazy
right.
to me. I mean, that's pretty much all you need to hear is just that one sentence. The fact that a news outlet like Fox News has identified that there is going to be a huge increase in backcountry skiers this year and feels like it's important enough for them to put out that news means it's pretty serious news.
Yeah. Well, and they're probably right. There's going to be a lot more people out there.
Yeah.
And who knows how much they know about it.
Right.
And even if they know a lot about it, maybe the people below them don't know as much about it. So it's that increase in population that I think is the issue. Yeah.
So to echo Fox News, if you're going to go out into the backcountry this season and you don't have much experience there, or even if you do, go take an avalanche course. Go take a backcountry safety course, even if it's just a refresher for yourself. Really, really, really good thing to do. and we've got some other topics this week surrounding the increase in backcountry use, and there's definitely going to be more people out there, and unfortunately more people in the backcountry just increases the total risk for everyone.
Yeah.
Because, you can have skiers above you, set off an avalanche, like it increases the amount of variables for sure, and the amount of control that you have as an individual.
Yep.
So we'll see how it plays out, but
it seems like there's enough room out there that you don't have to trip over someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
It just seems that way to me. I don't know.
But I mean, and we're going to get to a pretty similar topic soon. There are going to be zones that are just like more popular.
Right.
Like I always think about Vail Pass. Like
Yeah.
so many people, because it's just like right off the road. It's like really easy to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that much experience, and it's just like right there.
Right.
So I imagine places like that are going to be pretty busy this winter, so stay as safe as you can. Speaking of Summit County area, which Vail Pass is right near Summit County, Summit County has, talk about increased COVID restrictions. They've put out basically official repercussions for people violating their COVID policy, and specifically a lodging policy.
Mm.
So what they've done in Colorado is in Summit County, they're limiting temporary lodging to no more than 10 people in one unit, so to speak, and from no more than 2 households.
Okay.
Which I think is
I think that's doable.
Pretty doable, yeah. And almost like lenient in some
Right.
ways. Now, the strict part is a failure to do so could result in a $5,000 fine or 18 months in jail.
Wow. I mean, that's not
So,
insignificant.
No, and that's pretty serious, and that differs quite a bit from what we've seen in Vermont.
Yeah.
Vermont's not really like throwing out numbers or jail time like
Right.
that. So pretty interesting to see that out of Colorado. Now also, Colorado's seeing an increase in COVID cases just like we are right now. Their governor has asked for state residents to cancel social plans, which is pretty much exactly what we're seeing in Vermont right now.
Yep.
So not surprising, but kind of unfortunate considering that ski season is underway out there. So this is already happening and not really like the best place to be in terms of COVID cases at the start of the season. At least not what a lot of people were hoping for.
And Summit County's an interesting dynamic too. I mean, I spent my PG year there after college.
Yeah, we have both lived there.
I'm sure a lot of people have.
Yep.
And that was my big takeaway when I was 22 years old was, hey, everyone here is 22 years old and from somewhere else. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of like what makes it such a fun place to live, but also what makes it it's a tricky place for a situation like this.
It's a target for a virus, for sure.
For sure. And like the fluctuations in like population between like a weekday and a busy holiday weekend is like off the charts.
It's in the tens of thousands.
I think it's in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy.
If you haven't been there on a busy weekend, I don't even really know how to describe it.
Right.
Like, the craziest thing was when the Eisenhower Tunnel would close on, like, a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And then, like, 50,000 people were stuck in Silverthorne.
Right.
And I was like, I just want to go home. Can I get off the highway, please?
Oh, you can't.
It's a wild place sometimes. So that'll definitely be something that we keep a close eye on is what's going on in Summit County. Now, more Colorado news. This is really interesting. I found this very interesting.
I think this is interesting too.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I was referring to in the increase of people in a certain backcountry zone. There's a lawsuit in Colorado right now presenting the question, can backcountry zones be trade secrets? Which I think is just a fascinating conversation. Yeah. My immediate opinion would be no. Right. But we'll see how it plays out in court. Basically, the story is a gentleman named Stephen Bass, who is a longtime patroller at Powder Mountain and a 2-year employee of Steamboat Powder Cats, which is kind of like a backcountry tour guide operation. Yeah. He joined with a guy named Andy Sovic. Andy Sovic. My handwriting was terrible today. And he works for a company called Beacon Guideworks, and basically they set out to publish a backcountry guidebook for Buffalo Pass, which is near Steamboat. Now, they've essentially put the book out, or a first version of the book. Mm-hmm. They sent out like an initial copy, and the story is that Steamboat Powder Cats is pretty fired up about the potential for exponential increase in traffic in their area.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, they're not necessarily citing like the trade secret part of it. They're both claiming safety. Like both parties in this lawsuit are citing safety factors.
Yeah.
So Steamboat Powder Cats, their concern is that a book like this in a time like this is going to result in like so many more unprepared people in their zone, or people that might like think it's some kind of like backcountry resort.
Right, they're assuming it's safe because it's in a book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Sovic and Bass, their counter argument is that they're literally sharing terrain knowledge to keep people safe.
Right.
So really interesting. And I think like ultimately it'll all come back to that first question, like can backcountry zones be trade secrets? I'm pretty sure that's what the judge in the court is going to have to decide.
I mean, it was unclear to me from the article whether they had like a lease on that property and had exclusive access to it. So I know that some of these snowcat operations do. They'll lease, this hundreds of acres of land or thousands.
Right.
Versus just kind of saying, hey, this is where we've normally posted up and you can't steal our powder.
And that was the impression that I got, is that it was more that situation.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is where we normally go.
Yeah.
We know, like, this is our zone. Like, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. And it'll be another interesting one to watch play out. Kind of, thankfully, it's not a COVID-related issue, so we can keep following that topic and not have to talk about COVID-19, which is...
Well, not yet.
Gosh darn it, Bob. That's true. But yeah, really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fascinating lawsuit. And it's just kind of like disappointing, too. I get like generally disappointed that like stuff like this is even happening in general.
It all seems to end up in a lawsuit in one fashion or another.
Right, like can't we all just get along?
I don't know. I figure, like I said in the beginning, there's got to be enough for everyone, especially out there.
You'd think, right, especially in a place like Colorado where it's just like super expansive.
Right.
When I lived out there, I felt like you could just look in any direction and like, oh, that looks fun.
Right, it was overwhelming.
It wasn't
fun. It wasn't nice and quaint like it is here. Where,
right.
I felt more comfortable in the tight trees versus out there. I did not like being in the big exposed areas.
Yeah, it's funny growing up here in New England, then transplanting yourself out to the west, which we've both done a couple times. Now back to East Coast news. Bob, have you ever been to Saddleback?
I have been through Rangeley, but I've never skied at Saddleback.
Well, this is a topic that we've been covering on Top 5 Fridays for a while now. Not so much in the videos, although it has come up in the videos, but Matt McGinnis, my esteemed colleague, has been writing about Saddleback for like 6 years now. And Saddleback is pretty much all set to reopen this season after a 5-year hiatus.
Yeah.
So they have a new owner, Arcturus, and they're basically on track to spend $18 million in improvements for this first year.
And did I read that they bought it for $6.5 million?
Yeah, pretty sure that's right.
I mean, that's pretty good for $25 million to get a place, some real estate like Saddleback. That's
it was
impressive.
Really hard for them to find a buyer.
Yeah.
That's what the first couple years of Saddleback news was surrounding, was them trying to find a buyer. Total investment is actually planned to be approximately $38 million when it's all said and done. And they've got some significant specific projects coming up. The big one for this season, there were a few, but they replaced a quad, and it went from an 11-minute lift ride to a 4-minute lift ride.
So it's a faster lift.
Yeah. Thank you. But that's pretty cool.
Yep.
I mean, obviously there's always a topic of like, how many people can you jam on one slope? Right. But having skied Saddleback quite a bit growing up, I can like attest to the fact that on an average day at Saddleback, there's plenty of room for more skiers on the slopes.
Right.
So I think that's really nice. And it's been a long time since I've skied there, but I certainly remember pretty slow chairlifts. But the terrain out there is awesome.
A gorgeous area.
Rangeley's beautiful.
Kind of, I wouldn't say on the backside of Sugarloaf, but in that same scope, certainly in latitude. I mean, it's up there.
It's we're all kind of on the same latitude. Yeah. If you drive from Stowe to Sugarloaf, you're gonna
go straight,
pass right by Rangeley.
But as least amount of straight as possible.
Anyways, so that's really exciting. I hope that I can get to Saddleback in the next couple of years because it's a really cool place, and for me, it would bring back a lot of memories. So, congratulations to Saddleback. Oh, and those next projects they have, they're going to focus on snowmaking, and then they're going to build a really big solar farm.
Cool.
Which I think is cool.
Yep.
Something that we're seeing more and more of in mountain operations and windmills. We see a lot of that here in Vermont. And then they're also going to build more employee housing, which makes a ton of sense.
Right.
Because if you do that Stowe to Sugarloaf drive and you drive through Rangeley, there are not a lot of places for people to stay.
Yeah.
So that'll be big, as the mountain grows and as they get more people there, they're going to need more employees and they're going to need more places for those people to stay.
Yeah.
But in general, this is a huge benefit for just the Rangeley local economy. Yeah. So. Pretty psyched.
Beautiful lake there, just a really cool, really cool spot. There's no reason that place shouldn't be successful.
No, other than the fact that it's like not easy to get to, I guess. But it's not a bad drive from Boston.
I mean, Sugarloaf's not easy to get to.
That's very true. Sugarloaf's not easy to get to. And that's it for news topics. To end, we have our edits of the week. A few good edits this week. First, we have Ensemble from Phil Cassabon and Brady Perrin. Classic Phil Cassabon skiing, lots of like super creative urban stuff. Phil Cassabon has like a pro model ski with Armada right now that doesn't have edges.
That's a wild one.
So that's what you can expect from this, a lot of urban ledges and stuff like that. Next up we have, do you know LJ? Did you ever ski with LJ?
No.
John Strenio? LJ Strenio?
Nope.
You were probably done coaching by the time... I don't know, though. Maybe not. Anyways, LJ is South Burlington local. He's since moved out west, as many people do. But he's in an edit called Rendezvous, which is him and Vincent Prevost, basically turning Mount Baker into like their private natural playground. LJ's unbelievable. He's like one of the strongest skiers I know. He's not huge, but he's just like strong.
Yeah. Ran
marathons a bunch, and he's just a wild skier with like amazing talent and like really, really good physical abilities too. So watching him ski is pretty darn cool because he's very powerful. Did some impressive tricks out there, LJ. So kudos to you. And let's try and get together and ski sometime. It's been a while. And then the last edit, did you happen to catch this one, Bob, in plain sight?
But I want to watch it because these are my favorite types of videos.
Yeah, you should go home and watch this because this reminded me, obviously the terrain is very different, but this reminded me of Stowe.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Stowe is kind of the same. So it's called In Plain Sight. It's from Jackson Hole. And it's basically like celebrating the idea that you don't have to go into the backcountry to have fun. It kind of highlights like 3 different zones within Jackson Hole and just shows people just ripping.
Yeah.
And talking about like the camaraderie of skiing under the chairlift and with your friends and all inbounds, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about the older Warren Miller movies was that they would ski at, places that I could go.
Right.
And like obviously as an adult I can go more places, but when I was a kid skiing, they would be at they'd do a shoot at Mammoth, and I'd be like, wow, that's really cool. Like I can actually go there.
Right.
And ski those things.
Right.
Not as well, but I like that concept of doing that inbounds stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, as you probably already know, the terrain at Jackson is crazy.
Yeah, right. I'm sure they have plenty.
Yeah, there's one shot in there in particular towards the end of the edit where it had to have been like a 20 or 30 foot cliff drop / air to a pillow to another like 40-foot
Right.
cliff drop or air, just like very like skipping off the pillow.
Yeah.
Like that's just so cool that you can do something like that within resort boundaries.
Right. Yeah, and Jackson's that's a prime example of, that's probably one of the best places you could do something like that.
Absolutely.
In the States.
Yep.
So.
And a lot of people kind of flocking to Jackson Hole right now.
Yeah.
It's a pretty popular hub for kind of free ride backcountry-ish skiers right now because you can do so much off the chairlift.
Right.
You can really like hone your skills without spending the entire time in the backcountry.
Right.
So pretty cool. And that's it. Bob, anything to end with?
Nope, nothing at all. Looks like cold temps coming up. So we were just talking about this before. And
Yep.
Good for the snowmaking after our, what was it, 75 the other day?
Here,
It
yeah.
was like low to mid 70s.
Yeah, for like 4 days in a row.
Hopefully back to more mid-November temperatures.
Yeah. With any luck, next Top 5 Friday, maybe we can do it from the chairlift. No, that would be a nightmare. But perhaps we will have skied the morning before next week's Top 5 Fridays, fingers crossed. And I meant to start with this and realized that I didn't about halfway through. But we are doing an Instagram giveaway right now, giving away a couple pairs of these goggles. The Scott Vapor goggle.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice. I was trying them on the other day. Really, really good goggles. So head on over to Instagram if you want a chance to win these. We're also throwing in some T-shirts and Ski Essentials ski straps. And that's it. So thanks for joining us. And stay safe, and hopefully you can get out there and get on snow.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.